Before we convene the meeting, a couple of quick announcements. One, I neglected to introduce a new member of our team last meeting. Logan is going to be providing tech support for us on an ongoing basis. Appreciate that. And I know that Peter is especially grateful that he does that. Also want to introduce a guest, not a new member of the planning board, although he's seated with us, but Nick Fox is the new code enforcement officer in Hudson. And it's our first opportunity to really begin to talk about how we can work together. We welcome you. And glad you're joining us in this part of the room. So, also wanted to, in a more formal way, announce that we do have a special meeting scheduled. I've now heard from all of you that you're able to participate. But for the record, it's May the 28th. It'll be a single topic agenda, really looking at the Hudson Housing Authority project. It was too much to put that and tonight's meeting on one agenda. So we decided to divide that up. So thank you for your willingness to spend another night with us at the table. Please note that it won't start until close to 7 because there's another meeting in the space from 6 until about 6:45. So we will be starting, let's say 6:45. If you could arrive by then, it will start as soon as the other meeting concludes. Those are the only announcements I have before we convene, unless there's any other announcements for the good of the board. 28. So we'll call the meeting to order. Linda, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Dr. Black. Here. Mr. Spear.
Here.
Ms. Contra. Here. Mr. Woodhull.
Here.
Mr. Shensky.
Here.
Mr. Michael. Absent. Mr. Bolton.
Here. So some regular business. First item is approval of any payments for bills. Do we have invoices?
We have 3 invoices from our engineer, Rennie Engineering Design, totaling $930.90.
And these have been reviewed and are.
Correct.
Okay, so a motion to approve be in order. Being moves, is there a second? Sarah seconds. And roll call, please.
Alderman Vogel,
Yes.
Dr. Black. Yes. Mr. Spear,
Yes.
Ms. Contra. Yes. Mr. Woodhull,
Yes.
Mr. Shensky,
Yes.
Mr. Michael's absent.
Now we'll approve the minutes from the last meeting as distributed. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as distributed? Hearing none, a motion to approve would be in order. Gina motion moves to approve. Second.
I second it.
Veronica seconds. Linda, call the roll, please.
Jenna Vogel,
Yes.
Dr. Black,
Yes.
Mr. Spear,
Yes.
Ms. Contra. Yes. Mr. Woodhull,
Yes.
Mr. Shensky,
Yes.
Mr. Michael. Absent, Chairman Vogel.
Kaylee did inform me this afternoon that he was has a conflict tonight and won't be able to join us, so we're proceeding in his absence. The next item is part 2 of an action that we took in our last meeting. At the last meeting, we approved the new process for the receiving, management, and distribution of escrow. You reviewed that and approved it at our last meeting tonight. We're now looking at the actual escrow amounts. These suggested escrow fees have been distributed tonight to you, and they were actually placed at the table. The objective here was to create a defensible, routine escrow amount, depending on the size and scope of the projects, so that we don't have to determine at each individual meeting what the escrow would be for any particular project. By introducing a formulaic approach, it also would remove any concern of unfair practices toward one applicant over another. So you can review those suggested rates. And again, these were developed by Andrew, Linda, and myself, as well as coordination with the parties in the city that we work with on these matters. So you can, I'll be happy to talk it through each of these, or do you simply want to review them and then we can take action? Any questions?
There's, some increases in the prior escrow accounts and conditional use. Was there a flat fee increase or was there a percentage?
No, these amounts were based on the prior board's amounts and how much we fell behind. And we did a comparison of municipalities of similar size throughout the area.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Questions, a motion to approve is in order. Jane?
But
Second. Peter? I'd like to call the roll, please.
Chairman Baldwin,
Yes.
Dr. Black. Yes. Mr. Spear,
Yes.
Ms. Contra. Yes. Mr. Woodhull,
Yes.
Mr. Shetsky,
yes,
Mr. Michelson.
And finally, under regular business, there's an opportunity for liaison reports. Just as a reminder, in our early time with the revised board, we established relationships with two other agencies or organizations in the city. And just so we would have the sort of the physical infrastructure in place for those opportunities when we might benefit from working together. And Nathan, Peter, I don't know if you have any updates on your liaison work, but I wanted to provide that opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, thanks.
Okay. So let's move into old business. I would invite the applicants from 360 State Street to present. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening again, everyone. Since we saw each other last month, we received a comment letter from the consultant. They provided, very recently provided responses to all those comments, additional documents backing up responses, and a lighting photometric plan as well. Feel that you haven't had any real time to take a look at those yet. But here to answer any additional questions you might have or take any additional direction.
So after the last meeting, some of us went over to just see firsthand what the lighting looked like. And I think we have some thoughts that we'd like to share. Peter, Sarah, any thoughts you want to share after receiving it?
Yeah, I appreciate that it being mentioned in the last meeting that the lighting plan would be something that we would discuss. And it looks pretty obvious that the lighting is there. It's just sort of like safety lighting for overnight. So I guess the question is to do what we can expect from you in terms of a full lighting plan for when it's in operation. There's neighbors and townsmen pretty close by.
Yes, so we did send a lighting plan. All of the light fixtures are down there. There are more. We have added several poles and a few building mounted lights additionally, like the walkways, et cetera. So,
One of the things that I would say, even though I'm not aware that Hudson has a dark skies policy, but I think we would like to encourage, especially when you're in neighborhoods, that we are mindful of light pollution and that to the degree possible that we follow a dark sky kind of approach to lighting, especially larger parking lots and so forth. So is that the part of the, not the dark sky, but the lighting plan? That was a part of what they've already submitted.
We had questioned looking for more detail on it, and it sounds like you've just recently made the submission. We hadn't seen it yet.
that's correct.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right, so that's as of today.
Yes.
Sure, anything you would add?
I mean, it sounds like we're gonna review it. Yeah, it was different. It seemed unsafe.
Yeah, so we'll review that and then provide comments for the board.
Any other comments from the engineer?
No, there's no new comments, but we'll go through their new submission and, hopefully most of the items are checked off.
Andrew, any comments from you?
Oh, likewise, no new comments here. I will, of course, review the applicant's submission that just came in today and update the board accordingly if there's any further input necessary.
So I assume we would have you on the agenda again for our next monthly meeting. Any board comments or questions?
yeah, I took it right down that as well, because light poles there, lights up and everything. Some of the lighting is coming from the old library, which is the Galvin building. Are you gonna utilize that light in your project? You put in your own lighting in that parking lot there, at the front of your building?
We're not counting on
You're not counting.
anyone else's lighting, right? We're utilizing our own.
And the light poles in the lower parking lot on the State Street side. I think there was 1 or 2 poles with light on either side. That's okay, but it was dark there.
Yeah,
On the front of the building itself, where the walkway is, the sidewalk, there's plenty of lights there, but the illumination could be better. So,
Any other comments? Any additional information?
just one, clarification, should I be working directly with the city's DPW or water and sewer people, or are you forwarding the information to them, is someone else doing that, or tracking?
You should, typically you should be,
Okay.
but keep us in the loop, so then, and we all know what's going on.
Okay, so we'll see you next month.
Very good.
Okay, good to see you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
New business, we have a presentation from 810 Van Winkle Road, and the floor is yours.
Hi, good evening. Andy Brick, I'm a Brick Law Firm, I'm the project attorney. With me is John Hitchcock and Isabella Hitchcock from ABB Engineers, our project engineers. Isabella has informed us it's way too nice to be in here this evening, so I will be very quick. We can get on our way. This is 810 Van Winkle. It's the Academy Hill subdivision, also known as the Mount Ray project, originally approved in 1985 for 50 units. There were 2 phases. The first phase was completed 22 units. The second phase was approved for 28 units, going 19 got constructed. We are here seeking reapproval of the original project so that we can complete the 9 remaining lots and construct them. There are 3 lots. If you're familiar with the project, they are 3-unit buildings, they're triplexes. So 810 Van Winkle is 3 lots that will be 3 triplexes. So that would be the 9 units. It's 9 new, not 9 new buildings, it's 3 new buildings with 9 units total. It was part of the original approval. The original approval had a sunset provision. And for a good number of years, I used to come down once a year, usually in a snowstorm, and seek an approval for an extension of the time. But my client, Academy Hill Development Corp., got a little distracted with some things and let it lapse. So they're now asked me to come back and work with John to work with you to see if we can get it put back on track and finally approved and constructed. We're proposing units that look exactly like what's there. It's it's in keeping with the original plan. We're not changing anything. The units are the same. Obviously, codes have changed a little bit. We'll comply with all the new codes, but from the outside, from the exterior, the appearance will be the same. We did receive the initial engineer's letter from Rennie Engineering, and we are working on those comments. They involve addressing the secret process and whether or not it needs to be reopened or still within the thresholds. I believe they're reviewing the SWIP to make sure what we're still doing is in compliance with the SWIP. They're going to ask for a sewer letter, a staging plan, and a project narrative, as well as outlining what the original bulk table, what the original zoning was approved, so we can compare it to what we're proposing to make sure we're still in keeping with what was approved. So we are working on that. We're hoping to have it here for you this evening, but we didn't get there yet, but we will have it for you well in advance of the next meeting. So that is primarily our updates. I would add that in preparing for this meeting, I reviewed some of the documents that you have on your website, and it's really helpful to just be able to go to your website all the way back to 1985. So thank you. But one of the things I did see is that there was a letter from the HOA that was submitted subsequent to the meeting when we were here in February of 2025. And there is an HOA for that property. And I intend before the next meeting to reach out to the HOA. They addressed, I only found the letter preparing for this meeting. They had some legitimate concerns primarily related to the construction process and making sure it's as unobtrusive as possible, which is something we completely agree with. So I will be reaching out to the HOA to work with them and coordinate any issues and concerns they have regarding the process. So that's all our updates now. We are working on anything Rennie has said, and we'd ask if you have anything else you want us to take a look at, let us know when you do so. Or if not, if you put us on the next agenda, we'll have everything resubmitted and, we'll get in here for the next meeting.
Okay, any comments, Rich, from the engineering?
No, nothing new. If you're working on everything we had in the April 7th comment letter,
That's what we're,
yeah, perfect.
Andrew, any comments from your point of view?
No, nothing at this point in time.
Board, any questions?
I do have a question, which is, I wasn't here in 1985.
I was the first year.
Were you born?
I was, 2 years old. But,
Thank you.
Really? The new projects versus the existing buildings, is it that each, I was just trying to understand the leadership structure of those parcels versus all the other ones. They're just like, who are all the players on this? I'm not familiar with.
Sure, so,
Just to get my, up to speed, not in any.
right, because it was approved as a cluster subdivision at the time, one of the requirements was that the project sponsor, the building, our client, Academy Hill Development, that they create an HOA, homeowner association that was approved with an Northern plan through the New York State Attorney General's office.
Yeah.
And they did that. So they then went and sold all the lots that were constructed. When those lots were purchased, those people automatically become members of the HOA. So the three lots that we're going to build on are still owned by our client. But all of the other units have now been sold and are owned individually. And that's the HOA. And those are the neighbors. And candidly, those are the people that will be most affected by the construction of these final 9 units. That's why I said we're definitely gonna reach out to them. We want to coordinate with them. We want to make sure they can be supportive of our proposal.
Awesome. I understand.
Does that answer?
Yeah.
Other comments or questions?
Originally, day one, there's like 3 stages. The project itself,
It was 2 phases.
2 phases.
Yeah, 22 in the first and then 28. They built and sold the 22,
Right,
and then they built and sold 21, and then the 9 are the ones that remain.
done. That's what you're here for now.
Correct, yes.
And was escrow established at the time?
I don't know if escrow was established at the time. You did establish, we provided escrow for TDE analysis for this current pending application. So we did submit an escrow.
And are you aware of that? Okay, okay, thank you.
And if it needs to be replenished, just let us know. We expect a full engineering review. We look forward to it, and John can address any concerns that come up, and, we're comfortable, we can address any concerns with it.
Any other comments or questions? So we'll see you next month.
Okay,
Look forward to working with you.
thank you all. And the applicant behind us let us borrow their easel, so we strongly support their project.
Next new business is the Waterfront Village. I do know they have a fairly, detailed presentation they want to make, and I'm suggesting that, we consider holding our questions until the completion of their presentation.
Yeah, the chair while they're doing this, or should I leave the camera on that? You guys sent me this information, right? This is the one. You want people to have that going by? You want me to it's not there?
I guess it's just that I'm fighting about it. I'll ask them that.
They want me to.
Come out, this is what it is.
So, serve. To serve it.
We just have to go through. So. Because exactly.
It sounded good.
I'm gonna start using my analytics.
Well, if we like.
So eventually there was.
When you get a change.
Everybody.
Where'd you? Spend the. No, or close to the one unit. You get hot. Ben, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good evening, Chairman Owl, and members of the planning board. This project is a long time coming, so I'm very excited to present it to you all. This is our,
Can you introduce yourself to the newer members?
absolutely, my name is Ben Fain, Hudson resident, about 8 years, almost 9 years. I started Kitty's, Grapefruit Wines, the Caboose, Mr. Cat now, the Wick Hotel we're renovating, and now this is our next phase of what we're dreaming of here. So the project that I'm gonna present, we're all presenting tonight, is created on the belief that this district could become one of the most vibrant and welcoming parts of Hudson. I really drank the Kool-Aid on the vision that Hudson had for this area, especially this site, the Cass site. So I'm gonna tell you about our proposal. You're gonna hear about the dream to remediate contaminated land, add 150 homes, introduce neighborhood serving retail, a grocery component, improve pedestrian connections, implement the city's vision for a mixed-use waterfront district that's already underway. So this is just the beginning. This is a sort of a longer process, but that's what we're, so I was always told when I was, if we to do something like this, you tell them what you're gonna tell them, you tell them it, and then you tell them what you told them. So that's what I'm gonna try and do tonight. So tonight, what we're gonna walk through is really the team behind the project, our vision, the existing site, why it matters, the environmental remediation, and how the project aligns with Hudson's long-term planning vision. Probably the most important thing tonight is your feedback. So the team behind this project, we really started this because we knew this was a complicated project. And we wanted the strongest team possible. So we have Architectonica, and Christopher Short is here. The Architectonica is one of the most respected architecture firms and urban design firms in the world. And they do mixed use projects all the time, but in particular waterfront development. So that was a very important part of who we wanted to work with. We're working with LRC Group, who many of you know, but they have a lot of experience, obviously with complex infrastructure, which is important. Whiteman, Osterman, Hanna, Charlie Gottlieb, and who's doing our land use and zoning, who is the best. And the Nice and Weird group, that's me, Michael, and many others. But so it's a serious project, and it took a serious. This is a dream team. I'm just gonna say it. That's who we're working with, and I feel very lucky about that. So we're gonna get into the details, but the big picture, our vision that this is a walkable, mixed-use neighborhood. It's an extension of Hudson. Full stop. It's not an isolated development, it's not a private enclave, it's not a disconnected campus, it's part of Hudson. So what we're talking about, we've got 6.2 acres. It's direct, that's what we're gonna show you tonight. It's located across the street from the Amtrak station. You know, it's been quasi abandoned, frankly, for almost 30 years, maybe more at this point. So it's been disconnected. We hope to change that. We are very, very concerned about maintaining the architectural character, respecting the surrounding neighborhood, respect for the industrial and waterfront history, respect for scale, but in particular walkability. So what you're going to see is we have a residential housing proposal of 150 units, neighborhood retail, internal streets, landscaping, circulation, parking, and integrating the Wick Hotel. So the Wick Hotel is amazing. It's the best, and it's going to be better. We're working on that, and that's a whole other story, but that's coming, and it's going to be, so our goal is to integrate this all together. Important part of this is a phased approach. We're really trying to do this in 3 phases, so that it doesn't appear all at once. That's extremely important to us. The neighborhood, it has to evolve organically. Also, to do this, we're doing an environmental remediation of the site. That has to be done very carefully. And we have to have time to respond to community feedback. So phase 1 is the grocery component, our hotel improvements, additional parking, internal drive, and infrastructure, which is a building beneath the building. So environmental remediation, you're getting, the site has been accepted into the New York State Brownfield Cleanup Program. As a part of that, there's stormwater management, there's utility infrastructure upgrades that we have to do, we do them anyway, but this will be also coordinated through that effort. Long-term vision for Hudson. Decades ago, the LWRP, the city of Hudson began rethinking the waterfront with the LWRP, the comprehensive plan, and the zoning changes. So most of the site is the RSC2 zoning district. So this is the early stages. We want feedback. We frankly need feedback. It doesn't happen on its own. We need ideas. We want collaboration. We have to do this. We really have to do this together. So we're coming in the spirit of collaboration. We're open-minded, and but we're going to need your help. So I just think this is going to be a transformational project for Hudson. No question about it. So I'm very excited to start it off and introduce you to Charlie.
Thanks. Good evening, everyone. Charlie Gottlieb, land use counsel for the applicant from Whiteman, Hoffman, and Hannah. Heard a little bit about the project. I just want to talk about process, most importantly here. Again, we have proposed what we are calling at the moment the Waterfront Village. We were workshopping some names, but certainly feedback, as Ben had mentioned, is always helpful. This evening, we want your initial comments, but we would also ask the board to start thinking about the SEQRA process, the State Environmental Review Act. And this board can actually take its first step to commence the SEQRA process this evening by classifying the project as an unlisted action and declaring your intent to be the lead agency. That allows us to go out and receive comments from other involved agencies, City DPW, the Common Council, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and so forth. As Ben had mentioned, there is a rezoning element of this project, although it's fairly minor compared to the review task that is before this board. We have a mix of RCS2 zoning, which is a majority of the site, R4 residential zoning, which are small parcels to the west of the Wick Hotel, and Industrial 1 zoning district, which is further east, approaching Tanner's Lane. We are asking the Common Council, and we have submitted a rezoning petition to just take this entire project and put it in the RCS2 zoning district, so everything is consistent for the project. The RCS2 zoning district allows for mixed residential uses, commercial uses, retail uses, and so forth. Ben had mentioned this is a phased project, and that's important when we talk about process. Right now, the application before you is technically for site plan review and special use permit related to phase 1 of the project, which is the proposed grocery store, open space, infrastructure, and access drives. Phase 2 and phase 3. Phase 2 is our retail element. Phase 3 is our residential element. Those will be coming at later dates. However, the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, tells us that we cannot segment a project's environmental review. So even though we don't have concrete plans yet for the residential component or the retail component, we know enough about their size, somewhat about their appearance, their water usage, their sewer usage, their impervious surface coverage. So that allows this board, acting as lead agency, to review all 3 phases of the project for its environmental review at this time. Then in the future, when we come back for site plan and special use permit review for phase 2 and phase 3, you've already done your homework related to SECRA. Now, if something changes, if the economics change, if the market changes, and phase 2 doesn't look like it is appearing today, we will have to show that we similarly do not have any environmental impacts at that time. A few things related to zoning consistency and that rezoning effort. We did a deep dive into the city's comprehensive plan and the city's local water revitalization plan. Both planning documents that this city has adopted have identified this project site for revitalization and encouraging mixed-use development. The LWRP has actually identified this project site as a southern waterfront area, and it is a priority for mixed-use development and revitalization. As I had mentioned, we have applied to the Common Council for the rezoning. We wanted to get that review process going concurrently, get their comments on the rezoning. However, no other agency, Common Council, the DEC, any other approving agency cannot act until this board finishes its SECRA review. So our next steps on the project are tonight, hopefully we are able to declare this board's intent to be the SECRA lead agency. And then we're going to take your comments. We're going to take the comments we get from the other agencies, and we're going to provide this board with a full site plan set, lighting plan, landscaping plan, so forth and so on, as well as a SECRA narrative. That SECRA narrative is going to have your traffic report, your stormwater report, all the information related to the project site's involvement with the New York State Brownfields program, so that you can properly assess what those impacts are. We have provided the necessary documents for this board to take that first SECRA step. We submitted on the MuniCollab portal our cover letter, our application forms, a concept of what the entire master plan is going to look like. It shows what each phase is going to look like. A site plan, a conceptual site plan of just phase 1, which is really just the open space and the grocery store. A full environmental assessment form with some additional appendices related to the environmental impacts that we will be reviewing. So again, I'm going to hand it over to Christopher Short to go over the project in a little bit more detail. And then we can take any questions or comments, and we welcome them all. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Christopher Short. I'm from the New York office of Arquitectonica, so it's a quick train running up here this evening. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here. What you're seeing on the screen right now are just some images of what Ben introduced, what he's done already with the Boost, the Wick, and Kitties. I think it's evident that he has a good sense of design and a good understanding of what the community needs. Let's go to the next page, please. Thank you. So our site here is located in Redmond. It's a unique site because it's really the most western portion of Hudson. And it has an opportunity to do a couple things. One, it could really anchor that part of the city where there is not a lot of development happening now, or not a lot of use, as there's predominantly vacant warehouse on the sites, the majority of the sites. But two, it also has an opportunity to simultaneously be the front door of Hudson, with people coming off that train track. That train is incredibly busy throughout the day. I booked my tickets 3 days ago and I have reserved one left. So it's a good opportunity for us to do something unique here as a front door for Hudson. Let's go to the next page, please. So this is more of a blown up version of the site. As the application is filed, it's approximately 6.25 acres of improvement. But if you take into consideration what Ben and company have already done with the Wick, the Caboose, and Kitties, it's approximately 7.75 acres. And that's a big chunk of land. And we didn't just want to put buildings anywhere, right? We wanted to be contextual. We wanted to fit into the fabric of Hudson. So what you're seeing in blue are the existing street infrastructure of the city itself. So if we can apply that scale to this site and break down that nearly 8 acres into 3 blocks that people are familiar with, size-wise, it allows us to extend that city fabric further to the south. Keep going, please. And while we had that idea, doing our research, we stumbled across a historic map. I think it's from the 1890s. Our site obviously highlighted in red. You can see the train station here, South Front Street here. But what's unique about this is 2nd Street continues all the way south. Obviously, there's no water anymore. It's all been filled over the last 1,500 years or so. If you look at the aerial image you have outside there from 1923, it actually already shows the buildings built on there. So somewhere in between 1890 and 1923, that was filled in. But 2nd Street continues south, right? So it's evidence that the city of Hudson was always going to expand somehow to the southern portion. Let's keep going. Now, the site is not without its challenges. I think everyone here is familiar with the location. We're bound by train tracks to the south. We are bound by a dead end on Tanner's Lane. And there is a tremendous grade change from Allen Street down to Cross Street. And that's where that pedestrian stair exists today. So if we want to extend the city fabric south into the site and really become ingrained in what City of Hudson is, how do we do that with those challenges? So what's interesting here, when we did a little analysis of bus stops and pedestrian and the train and bike paths and all that stuff. The Amtrak station is here and we have a bus stop here. So that leads some credence and some gravity to the site to be a real transit-oriented development, or one that is pedestrian friendly, as Ben made in his introduction. And that is certainly something that we considered in developing the master plan here. But two, whenever I'm in Hudson, I take the train up. I don't have a car. I don't run an Uber. I walk around. It's a very walkable city. So how do we continue that connectivity from a pedestrian perspective? So there is that stair that continues south, and if anyone's taken it, it kind of dead ends on Cross Street, right? You're up against the Robert Taylor House and kind of got to jump over some birch grass and all that. And it doesn't really go anywhere unless you go left or right. So is there an opportunity for us to really take that pedestrian connection and extend it further south into something that is a destination? I think the answer to that is yes. Can we go to the next page, please? This is the existing site. A little confusing with all the red lines, but not in scope is showing some of the work that Ben has already done with Kitties, the Caboose, and the Wick Hotel. But the entire site itself is these 7.75 acres I mentioned. Also, what's highlighted is the Robert Taylor House, which is part of the rezoning application. It's not proposed to be amended or do any work in this application from an architecture or master planning perspective. There is one out parcel on this residence here, so that's allocated as such, there. The site is going to be improved by demolishing the warehouse and these two small residential structures here. The CSX building will remain, the train will remain, obviously everything that's been worked on, will remain. But there's an opportunity, how do we collectively integrate what has already been built into an overall vision? So the next page, please. And this is the proposed master plan. So we have really two main streets into the site. One, which we're calling Wick Street, that comes off South Front Street, and then one that we're calling South Second Street. So that is diagrammatically the continuation of Second Street that everyone saw on that historic plan. And South Second Street would wrap around internal to the site itself, and then have another ingress egress point on Candace Lane. So there's 1, 2, 3 vehicular ingress and egress points. But it was important for us to do the street layouts in a way where I know we're very pedestrian oriented, but parking is a real thing that we have to talk about. And so we have to provide parking here. But how do we do it in a way that feels ingrained into the entire proposal? So by doing these streets in such a way, we're left with essentially 3 city blocks, 1, 2, and 3. And by having that internal circulation, we're not adding any additional circuitous circulation around the site to the existing street infrastructure of the city. The second main thing that we've done here is what you see here, here, and here are retail and grocery components. So there's about a 7,200 square foot retail component that fronts on South Front Street. That kind of book matches what's happening at the Caboose, so we create a nice gateway into the development itself, but also creates an extension of that, really that retail corridor that exists today, right? So we're maintaining what the intent is in the planning to date. There is a 1,200 square foot boutique retail pavilion internal to the site, and then the 16,000 square foot proposed grocer, which is here. Additionally, we have the 150 units that Ben was mentioning in a 5-story building. Now we've been doing this for 2 years with Ben and his team. And we did various iterations as to how many residential buildings do we need? What does the market support? Where do they go? What's the master planning approach for that? And we thought it was important to locate that further off the South Front Street to maintain that retail corridor so people can actually come into the site, pull people from the city, from the train station into the site, go to the grocer, go to the retail. And but another reason why we put this here is, we are proposing 5 stories, but it's the lowest part of the site. Site slopes from top left down to top right about 7 or 8 feet, and we're still confirming the final topography. But locating that on the lower portion of the site, we would have to comply with any type of FEMA regulations, and we intend to do so. It has the illusion that it's not as tall as if it were on the front part of the site. 7 foot, 8 foot can have a real visual impact to when you're designing these buildings. So having it located over here in the lowest part of the site helps reduce that. And also it's pushed back from this point here to 150 feet from Candace Lane, right? We didn't want a massive street wall against something there. It's not Warren Street, it's something a little bit different. But putting that back helps preserve some of the spatial separation between those existing residences. Parking, I mentioned, there's essentially 3 distinct parking lots, one for the residential, one for the grocer, and one for the hotel and retail, where a total of 269 stalls with some associated street parking with that. But probably the most important thing that we did here was really twofold. One, every street has sidewalks on both sides. It's not one of those where we're just gonna have sidewalk on one side and then, private garages into a residence on another. It's conceived as a pedestrian-oriented development. So there's wider sidewalks around the perimeter of the site. And those sidewalks not only connect the buildings and into existing sidewalk infrastructure, also connect to various located outdoor spaces, right? Now, these are conceived as if they were buildings. They're not leftover space. Outdoor space is important in mixed-use environments. Outdoor space is partly important in Hudson. So there's an opportunity for us to do unique pocket parks between the retail and the grocer. So whether that's a sidewalk cafe that spills out, or maybe the space is reserved by the grocer and you have a new, I don't know, vegetable company that has the latest strain of apples that they're trying to sell. So they can set up a tent there, right? So it's a flexible space. Similarly to the proposed, or the 1,200 square foot boutique retail, instead of just having a building on this weird street corner, right, there's outdoor space there. So that could be an enjoyable space. And then also to the west of the hotel, there's a hotel terrace, take advantage of that now and do some nice landscaping, proper greenery compared to what's there today. Most importantly, there is a large open space in the middle of approximately 10,000 square feet. Now that's just shown as kind of a big lawn right now, but I think the purpose of locating it there was this could be a real outdoor social hub. It could be for events, it could be for a farmer's market, it could be just for, you want to picnic at night. It's flexible, but it's centered around the development, right? It's almost like a central park to what's there. So that was conceived intentionally in that particular location. I do want to mention that the stairs are right here. So aligning that, we now have a destination for those stairs to come down. First, you're fronted with retail immediately, then you could walk to your grocer here, walk to the hotel, wherever you want to go, right? So now there's a real destination for that continuity of those stairs. You can see there's a lot of street trees. Again, intentional. We want a real green space. We just don't want big voided parking lots. We want it to feel like a park, feel like an extension of some greenery that is right in town. Next page, please. So after we figured out the master planning, we looked to some of the existing precedents in town, in the city today. What's the materials? What are the rhythms? What are the portions? What are the layering of relief on the facades? And obviously, I think everyone's familiar with Opera House, Silica, train station, and Warren Street. But if we go to the next page, there's some more images of what is there on site today with Wick Hotel here, Kitty's up top, and the caboose down there at the bottom. There is this really awesome train that's there today, and we love it. You know, I think we pitched the idea of calling this Crane Waterfront, but we want to reuse it somehow. So if we go to the next page. These are illustrative renderings, and what they're here to do is show a sense of scale. This is immediately looking east, so you have your train station here, Kitty's, Caboose, you have the 3 residential parcels, this is the out parcel that Ben Company's gonna own. That is the Wick Hotel, here's the proposed residences, the grocer, and then the retail. You can see how this is a continuation of that retail element that exists on South Front Street today. You can see how Wick Street is proposed and generally comes in, right? And it'll connect to South Second Street. Again, all internal circulation that will wrap around the site. I do want to point out that our client is very committed to sustainability. Their existing buildings are net zero. So the intent is whatever is being proposed here would include some measures of sustainability, whether it's net zero, passive house, it's things that we will figure out. But it's important that that be addressed in anything that actually gets built on the project. Next one, please. And then these are some pedestrian views. They're not necessarily a final product. They're very conceptual and illustrative in nature, but what they show are a sense of scale, a possible sense of materiality, how these buildings can relate to the existing historic fabric that exists in Hudson today. So maybe using that crane as part of the signage package to introduce the arrival to the site. This could be some really beautiful retail here. So this is intentionally angled right towards the train station. So when you get on the train station, that's one of the first things you see. And continuing down, you can see the existing caboose there. And then the grocer starting to pop up. If we go to the next page, this is the view looking down Wick Street. So you can see the leg of the retail, that 7,200 square foot one coming right next to the grocer here. And that is that really, whimsical pocket park that we have here. Maybe it has cat and air lighting, something interesting to create an outdoor room. People actually want to go and use the space. We do have a residential building on the end of this property here. You see the Wick here. In front of the Wick is the large open park where all these buildings are, kind of surrounded. We are incorporating a lot of landscape to make the pedestrian experience of this, really lively and enjoyable. This is, though we have street parking, right? The streets are sized appropriately, but they're not oversized, so people aren't going to speed. right? The focus here is the pedestrian. And then here's a view looking north with that, boutique retail here, the hotel in the background, and then the proposed residential. Again, residential is gonna be in phase 3. Market conditions can change, but it's important for us to take some cues as they exist today with a lot of the row homes that you have. There's a rhythm to it, there's a texture to that. It feels residential. We want it to feel residential. We don't want it to feel like anywhere in the USA. It should feel like Hudson. Go to the next one. And then here's a section cut east-west looking north. Really what this is showing are some of the heights of the proposed retail. The 1-story, about 16 foot or so for the 1700 bar, about 24 foot for the proposed grocer's like height. And then we have our 5-story residential. Diagrammatically, you can see how the site slopes and why that's located there. And then as this topography of Hudson keeps coming up here, that 5-story building's kind of nestled into the valley. Let's go to the next page, please. As Ben and Charlie mentioned, there's 3 phases. These are the plans showing phasing. So phase 1, let's build Wick Street. Let's build a part of 2nd Street. Let's build the grocer, this parking, and all the associated landscaping and open space that comes. Because once you have this is a very active space. You're not just waiting for phase 2 to come to be usable, right? This is a usable space the day it opens. Phase 2 is the retail infill, 1 here and 1 here. So again, we could do that when the pads are developed during phase 1, where you're not encroaching or hindering any traffic or any access to the site. If all utilities will be run, we should have to come up, build it. And then phase 3, similarly, that's all happening on the right-hand side of the plan, where we would do the residential building and the associated parking with that. And then here is, go back, this will be the last slide, right? And here's the master plan and its 3 phases. So in summary, we've tried to do really, 4 things. 1, let's connect to the fabric of Hudson. It has a rich dynamic fabric, and we want to be a part of that. So providing continuity through pedestrian connections, having some of the streets more internal, so there's some out-facing uses of this retail, I think is important. 2, let's introduce a scale that everyone's familiar with. Big site, let's break it down. 3 blocks, walkable, it's something that everyone is familiar with. 3, let's really pursue the sustainability front, and that's not just a buzzword anymore. A lot of code is going to drive you to sustainable measures anyway, but our client is committed to go above and beyond that, pursuing net zero. And then 4 is we have an awesome opportunity here to take what is predominantly a vacant parking lot and warehouse and really create an awesome front door opportunity and kind of fill in when that final piece is and really have the site anchor what is the western portion of the city of Hudson. So with that, I think, what's it wonder or turn it back over to Charlie. Thank you.
That's it. So like I said, we'd love to hear any comments you have. We would like to start the CEQA process, which by no means is a decision, but it is simply allowing us to go forward and kind of start that environmental review process. So if you have any questions, we're all ears.
And first, Rich, Andrew, any comments about frame the board's discussion?
Nothing specifically on my end, unless the board has any questions about the seeker process. I know Mr. Gottlieb explained that in detail, but if you have any further questions, I mean, that was of course accurate. But happy to fill in where I can.
Well, let's open up the discussion. Questions, observations, comments? Nathan?
Does phase 1 require rezoning? Like, does that have to be staged before we do site plan review?
So there's only, and if we could, let's see, so this will work. Oddly, so really this interior part is all RSC2 now. This is industrial. Oddly about industrial is it permits multifamily today, but we just want to make the entire site consistent. The only thing that could not be done today without the rezoning is the proposed accessory hotel terrace. When the WIC was constructed, the Common Council adopted Local Law 2 of 2016, which rezoned most of this into the RSC2. For whatever reason, that parcel was left out. but it is naturally connected to the Wick Hotel. So this would have to be rezoned RSC two to allow for this accessory terrace to be in conjunction with the Wick, but everything else could proceed.
The Second Street, South Second Street. Who's gonna be responsible for that? I think, or the city?
So all these internal roadways are gonna be private roadways. So there would be public easements, on sidewalks and on the roadways. There would be a maintenance agreement, with the city. That would essentially be the equivalent to a stormwater maintenance and access agreement, which essentially says to the extent that the developer, the property owner does not maintain those streets, and forces the city DPW to come in and maintain or close the street, what have you, that they would be able to recoup the monies.
And that's gonna be a dead end street. Or is it gonna connect to?
Second Street I think it's going to continue down here to the end of Tanner's Lane. Yeah, and that would be at the end of phase 3.
Just initially looking at it, some parts of it seemed bulky. There was a lot of talk about, keeping with Hudson's long-term vision, being a neighborhood, the fabric, the pattern of the city. And I don't know if Hudson's ever had a big brochure. They've been, like mom and pop stores, smaller corner stores, I don't know what that is in comparison to say like a Price Chopper in Greenport. So I guess something for scale to kind of understand the size of the grocer, because to me, that isn't keeping with the fabric. I've never gone like shopping in Hudson for like my essentials, you know what I mean? Like paper towels and stuff like that. You go to Greenport for that. And so that was one of my things, and the residential, is that apartments or what is that?
So a few things. One is this will be a larger grocer than we live in the city of Hudson right now. But one of the things we've noticed when we were doing the planning for this was, you're absolutely right. There is nowhere in Hudson where you can get more than what you're going to have for dinner that evening, unless you get in your car and you drive to Greenport.
Yeah.
This will allow a pedestrian accessible larger grocery, right? But we're not talking about a Price Chopper. We're not talking about a Hannaford's. So when we do our next submission, we are in discussions with a potential grocer. And so we will have more developed elevations.
Will it be a grocer that's affordable to everyone that lives in Hudson then? Or is it going to be more upscale?
So when we are able to, when those negotiations with that grocer are done, we'll be able to provide that information as well as more detailed elevations of exactly what it's gonna look like.
Okay. And the
the-
residential section, could you describe that one?
Sure, so at the moment, again, this is phase 3 of the project, so it might not be before you again for another 3 years, but at the moment, they are both apartments.
Okay, and, it just seems, like working on replacing Bliss Towers right now, that everyone seems to want something shorter. So the 4-story seems a little bit high. And I also don't know if that kind of goes with the fabric of the city of Hudson and the shape and the size of the building, as well. I mean, we're used to 2 or 3-story houses. So I don't know, it's just,
No, absolutely.
it's
And
kind of bulky.
these are the exact comments we came here for. A few things just to note is that, and we will be providing much more detailed information, but one of the goals of the revitalization project and the master planning process here is to diversify the housing stock in the city of Hudson. So that includes making sure that there's more than just row houses, there's more than just townhouses. I worked on the Depot District project, and that was really the first large scale apartment building that came to the city of Hudson, and at the same time.
Like it belongs. In my opinion, it doesn't look like it belongs.
Sure, and the whole idea is, with that neighborhood, is they're developing hopefully a city block, right? So I think, yes, in a vacuum, it might not belong, but you have to look at the entire kind of phased approach here. but we can certainly take a look at the massing, the bulking, and maybe give some different perspectives as we go through the process.
Okay, so the first thought that I had similar questions about, like, I know that the smaller a grocery gets, the more expensive its wares are. So I was curious about that plan, but I don't know if I can use this as a comp, but I remember a lot of the pushback on the development in the North Bay on Charles Williams had to do with a big apartment building going into what is essentially a dead end in the floodplain. And although there's more going on down here, there is no other egress out of here except Front Street, unless everybody does what everybody already does, which is drive around warehouses on the 3rd. And since that's not really allowed, that's not a real access point, that's driving on somebody else's private property and potholing on that road. I'm struggling to know why this wouldn't run up against the same concern. That there's basically no way for anybody to evacuate there, or I don't know, there's like Front Street is, I guess, a fire truck to get around or something, but I'm just thinking about that.
Sure, and so one of the things we have retained, Mark Naldini from, I think it's still Creighton Manning, as the traffic consultant on this. And so what we can do is make sure he looks at this with a fine tooth comb for, access from emergency vehicle standpoint. What I think is different from this project based on the other multi-family project you're discussing was there were a lot of concerns over placing fill in floodplain for that project, which would actually enhance the flooding. Here, what we will be producing is a stormwater pollution prevention plan that shows that the rate of stormwater runoff from the project will be better, if not consistent with what exists today. But then we'll also be doing a FEMA analysis. And we're waiting on topography for that, but we will show that we're meeting all FEMA regulation for development in a floodplain. But we will certainly take a look at access as it relates to any mandatory evacuation or, worst case scenario.
I have a set of questions, around this CSX building. You mentioned stays. I was sort of wondering, that was not marked as not being developed. I was just, is that owned by you all, or is that?
That's not another question.
Yeah.
CSX building.
I was just trying to understand the parts of the project that are, like, what the.
Inside the building's not being touched.
Okay.
So it's the landscaping around.
Are they happy being surrounded, or are you?
It owns it, right? Which goes, yeah, that's. This one?
Yeah, it was described in the presentation as being a CSL.
Yeah, he's used it for storage.
Okay, so it's not owned by them?
No.
Okay, I understand. That was just like, I was just trying to understand if they were going to be encircled. And then, I think I have like and it's not a for now question, but like, I think as the project progresses, understanding the height from Deer Alley.
Yeah.
There's a set of people who have like a
World class.
gorgeous view out across the Hudson and what the impact on them will be. And then there looks like there's also a single residential property that's going to be surrounded by this, and so I'm sort of aware of that as well. And then the zoning change for the Robert Taylor house back property, there's no current plan to do any development there. So I was just curious about the need for the zoning change in that parcel.
No, there is, correct me if I'm wrong, we do also own the Robert Taylor House parcel. There is no plans whatsoever for any additional work here. I do believe it is being renovated, at the moment, and hopefully getting it back to a status where it can be utilized for some sort of accessory elements to the project, or the Wick Hotel.
Yeah.
But that is not part of the project, but that rezoning is really designed to give, again, consistency so that in the future, if it is to be utilized, it would certainly go back before this board, but it also has the proper zoning.
Yeah, but it does change what we can approve or not, depending on what the zoning.
It's all
correct. Yeah, so it does mean that there would be a more expensive potential project on that parcel, but that's up to the council, not for us. And then I know that other people have questions. I have like a whole smart approach. Yeah.
You want to just go for it?
Yeah, so combined sewer overflow, we already have a problem at the moment. On the Whiteman Park, where we have a CSO there. And then the pumping station, which then brings sewage up and over. This is going to add an enormous amount of hardscape, a whole bunch of new sewage units, or new units that will produce sewage. Like what, if anything, is, I don't know what the answer is. This is like a future engineer.
No, absolutely. So that
Like
is,
it's a, I'm concerned. I think we're operating under a consent decree, the whole thing.
yeah, myself, and Rod Morrison from LRC Group are all too familiar with the consent orders and working with the DEC on the combined sewer overflow problem.
Yeah.
And the I&I issue that the current system has. There is a credit system in place. When we do submit that secret narrative, we will be producing an engineering report related to water and sewer that will fully address that issue and would also be akin to the report that we would use for a sewer extension permit application.
I think that there's like even above and beyond that, because it's the CSO right into essentially a public park. I have like a particular concern about like making that problem we already have worse.
Okay, great. We will make sure to take a look at it.
I share Victoria's thought about the question about the scale of the housing and the 5 floors being, I mean, I get that it's at a lower topography than just across the street or with Deer Alley, that steep grade change. It does seem like that's something that we get a lot of comments about is the impact on folks, even on that little part of Allen Street or other sort of viewpoints of the neighborhood. I'm also curious, who owns that staircase?
What I'll say related to the viewpoints, those are excellent. I love the fact that we now know that Deer Alley is something to look at because we can do a view shed analysis from different vantage points. So if there are other vantage points that you would like to see the potential project from, you can see what our design team can kind of put together.
Comments? Questions? I think I'd like to just underscore a couple of the observations. And I know you'll do this, but I think just to raise this topic sufficiently, that careful design of a traffic solution is going to be fundamental to this project. Careful, thoughtful. You're disturbing people's lives on Tanner Lane in a way that they can't even imagine at this point. And so I think a very thoughtful approach to how we deal with transportation, how we deal with noise, how we deal with light. Because all of those are disturbing variables that I think it's really important. Some of the early comments you made that this philosophically, this is Hudson, this is integrated in Hudson, because if it feels like an island of exclusivity, that's the wrong message. And I even think about your green space, and my question is, will that be a program space? In other words, will there be activities actually programmed for that space, or is it just a use as you wish kind of space? Because it could be a way to bring Hudson into the development in ways that it may not occur otherwise. But these are a little bit outside the scope of some of the things that planning board thinks about. But it's such a major project that it will affect the entire community, not just the surrounding areas. We look forward to having thoughtful conversations with you as we go through the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Related to noise and light, we will be addressing those in our secret narrative. Related to the open space, you can kind of, we're being watched.
Speaking of noise,
Related to the open space, Right now, as you can see, it's a blank canvas. So we really didn't want to hear from the community in the city as to what programming is a potential there.
I'm a very new member. Are there any thoughts about, I mean, what's the market you're going for with this housing? Are you pursuing kind of tax credits or mixed affordability process? Supply, but, are you gonna lease up 145 luxury apartments or what's the thought there?
Yeah, sure. So,
Is 145, like, is the scale connected to the, the form of the space?
sure, understood. That is a little bit outside of the site plan purview that the planning board does have, because that is a business decision.
Right.
But what we can say now is we will be doing a market analysis when we do our secret review. It'll be a preliminary marketing analysis of what is the housing stock in Hudson? What affordable housing units are coming online? Excuse me, I think there are a lot of affordable units. There are a range of affordable units based on percentage of AMI. There is a large amount of affordable units coming into the city of Hudson. And in fact, I think we see the Depot District struggling with filling their affordable units. So this residential component, like I said, you might not see this before you again for approval for another 5 years, another 3-4 years, and that market might change. But at the moment, they are proposed to be market rate, and we do that just for consistency, because we don't know what the future is going to hold for the need of the housing stock in the city of Hudson.
I'd like to underscore one thing that Veronica talked about, and I really appreciate the perspective, Veronica, that you bring as a native. One of our guiding lights is the comprehensive plan. And I would encourage you to really study the comprehensive plan in light of your proposal and see where the connecting points are between your project and then how can you contribute to some of the Hudson 2035 visions that have been created. And again, that's another way to not only satisfy our requirements, but it's another way to more fully integrate into the ultimate vision for the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I have one last question.
Yeah.
Just about the sort of the lack of phasing that the residential building would be included in the site plan review, but we're not gonna see any details about it for 3 years. How does that?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. So the way secret works is if you have a conceptual idea of a larger phased project.
Yeah.
And you know what that conceptual idea is, right? We know we want to do apartments here in phase 3. We know that now, we know that today, but we are not submitting for site plan approval for those apartments yet. But secret requires us to study the environmental impacts as if we are submitting for approval of this today. What are the impervious surfaces? What are the sewer impacts and the stormwater impacts based on how large of a building it is? So we're studying those environmental impacts now. And then later on in 3-4 years, we might come to you with a phase 3 site plan application that says we're ready now to do the apartments. It might look different. It might be lower. It might have less units. And if that's the case, we will show that your prior secret analysis is consistent with what the project looks like in 4 years when we come back for you.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the other thing I would say is thank you for redeveloping the test site. Like this, it really has been like an empty void this whole time. And like, I think it is overall positive that something is happening with that property.
Yeah, I will say it's been a pleasure to work with the team. That's not very often in my line of work that you get to do a revitalization project. More importantly, this is going to be a brownfields project.
Yeah.
And so, for those of you that don't know what New York State Brownfields program is, it is an opportunity where you enter into the state's brownfield program for certain tax credits. You will then clean up all contaminated areas of the project site. You take that contaminated soil out. You discharge of it in accordance with all state and local regulations. And then new fill comes in, clean fill. There are different levels of cleanup. You can clean up a site for, an Amazon warehouse, right? You don't really have to clean it up that much. But for retail, a park, and apartments, you have to clean it up to the highest standards that the state requires. And we're just starting that brownfields process. And we will give this board and your consulting engineer all that information to show the various levels and methods of how it's being cleaned.
It's really amazing, and I just want to double down on just how powerful this is and how obviously thoughtful it was, the phasing, everything about it, the connecting it with the grid. I mean, really just bringing part of the city back to life. It's really quite beautiful. It's sort of exciting to be a part of it.
Yeah, and, we're excited to work with the planning board. Again, this is the first step.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be plan changes, there's gonna be more comments, there's gonna be public hearings.
I think the only other thing I would say is that there's a lot of parking. If you look at when you combine it with the Amtrak lot next door, it's an awful lot of parking. In a pretty concentrated area. I don't know what the percentage is of building, park, but in parking, but it's in, if you include Amtrak lot.
Well, it is
Yeah.
refreshing for you to hear that.
Nothing's
Nothing's up 4 years after finding the city of Hudson plan. There are no off-street parking requirements. So one of the things that our traffic report will assess is a parking assessment.
And I do appreciate that the building sort of hides it from the sort of central focus of the train station and arrival in Hudson. I think it's good that it's sort of getting way behind there to some extent.
And we will also, our parking assessment, and a lot of you may or may not have read Mark Naldini's parking assessments in the past. We'll assess how many open spaces are here. Because to the extent that retail users can utilize existing parking spaces rather than utilize new impervious surface that we're introducing to the site,
Right.
that's best.
Yeah, I did wonder too about connectivity there and, I think about the number of times in like suburban Atlanta, whether I've like pulled into the wrong parking lot to get to the retail space I need to go and there's some wall or transit I can't make.
Yeah, that's 1990s planning.
Yeah, sure.
And I think also connecting across to your other neighbor on the other side of the train tracks as well. How do we really elongate this thing such that people can walk down the stairs through your development and all the way across to where the current antique warehouse is and warehouse building is.
Great.
So this was a great and thorough presentation. I think we all walk away generally understanding what you're talking about, which is a super introduction to the work we'll do together. I think it's appropriate that we declare our intent to serve as the lead agency. So let's take action on that. Who would like to put that in form of motion? Peter moves that we declare intent to serve as the lead agency. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Veronica, seconds. Linda, would you call the roll?
If I just may, if you could also add that we're unlisted action under secret.
Okay, we're gonna add that there's unlisted action on your secret.
So the board serving as lead agency or intent to serve as lead agency for the unlisted action.
Yeah,
Great.
okay, thank you for that. And it is the motion and the second still holds?
Yes.
All right, Linda?
Chairman Baldwin,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Shatsky,
Yes.
Mr. Spear,
Yes.
Ms. Conklin. Yes. And Mr. Woodall.
Yes.
Great, so I will work with the planning board's consultants on the helping out with the lead agency circulation. We will respond to these comments. We are gonna come back with a lot more information. And then we're off to the races. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we adjourn, Linda and Andrew and I are meeting with Nick Fox briefly after today's meeting, just as an introductory to the conversation. And if two other board members would like to join us, we can do that without it being a public meeting. And probably 15 or 20 minutes just to begin to see how each other are working. So with that, I would offer a request for a motion to adjourn. Katie moves,
Second.
Monica, and Linda. Yes.
Shatsky. Yes, Mr. Spear.
Yeah.
Woodall. Yes.